Greetings and welcome to CCJ 3014 Crime in America. What I'd like to do in this introductory video is introduce myself and introduce you to the course, and then spend a little bit of time going over Chapter 1 and mentioning a few ideas and maybe some tips on preparing for exams. Anyway, I guess I'll mention I'm Dr. Mark Winton. I've been teaching at UCF for 27, maybe it's 28 years now since we just had the New Year's. I taught in the sociology department for 10 years, and then I moved over to criminal justice 17, 18 years ago. And I've taught a lot of courses. Prior to that, I worked in the mental health field and also worked in forensic mental health agencies, seeing a lot of sex crimes and violent-related cases. Today, I spend a lot of my time researching genocide and write articles about genocide. And I've often worked with other professionals from other fields like psychology and anthropology and sociology and even medicine. And so I like the idea of interdisciplinary work. The syllabus is posted in the Canvas web course section, and so all of you should be able to log on to that and get the information. I'll put up the PowerPoints, and I'll have announcements each week that will provide links to any information or the YouTube videos. If you'd like to see more of my YouTube videos, I have well over 100 videos on all kinds of topics related to my courses. But I will give you the direct link for each week's material, so you won't have to look through all that. And this way you can pinpoint your interest later on if you want to pursue that. You can contact me by email, by phone. I have all the information on the first page of the syllabus, the course descriptions, objectives, the textbook, and the exams. We have 4 exams worth 50 points each. They'll be on each section. The last exam, which is the final exam, meaning the last, will be on the last section, so it's not comprehensive. A lot of the material will come from the book and also the YouTube videos, and I try to keep things pretty straightforward. And you can see the additional policies, the grading procedures, a whole bunch of other material related to my obligation and your obligation in the course and requirements. There's no papers in this course, so you don't have to worry about Turnitin.com or writing papers in this particular course, although I have that on my syllabus as standard material. You can see that you have to introduce yourself online the first week of class. I also have information about the Writing Center, counseling services, Title IX, and then the last page, really that's our plan, the course schedule, and I have it by week and the readings, and then on the right-hand side where it says assignments, you can see the exams, and they'll be open around 5 days, and then you have an hour and 15 minutes to take the exam once you open it within that time frame. Obviously, it will be open book, open notes exams, and so make that clear right now. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Chapter 1, an Introduction to Criminology. One of the things I want to mention is that I really don't want to go over and just read to you these PowerPoints, which is really easy to do. What I want to do is facilitate thinking, critical thinking, questioning. We're not in the classroom. If we were in the classroom, I'd throw out some questions and we start having some discussions going. But I want you to think about everything you read and apply it to scenarios that you're familiar with. And I think that's one of the helpful things. Trying to memorize these terms may be one way, to go about it, but not the way I recommend. I recommend that you integrate everything. You use examples. You see how it applies in your own practice in your life and your career goals and what you plan to do or are doing in the criminal justice system. So I think that's important to go beyond just trying to memorize these terms, but actually apply them, see how they make sense. And you'll see that there's a lot of disagreement in criminal justice, that we disagree about which theories are the best ones, which policies we should use, the findings on research. But we do have a lot of useful information that leads us in various directions to try to understand crime and prevent and intervene in crime-related situations. Now, basically, criminology is a scientific study of the definition, forms, causes, and societal reactions to criminal behavior. Now, criminal justice is the application of systems such as policing, courts, and corrections. And so you kind of see the difference there between criminology and criminal justice. And the two are really interrelated, and we need both to understand crime, whether we're studying theories and methods, explanations, or if we're studying the operation of the criminal justice system. We need both to really gain a better understanding. There's a section on the emergence of criminology, and you can read through that. The author goes over some material from the theological, supernatural time periods, the metaphysical, then moving into the scientific. An example I use in one of my classes to look at especially the application of the legal system and understanding the social construction of laws and the application and lack of science and societal influence are the Salem witch trials. So, very fascinating time period to think about. And we also have some different terms that we use that are discussed in the text. Deviant behavior, which is behavior outside society's expectations. And of course, what is deviant to one might be considered to be beneficial, useful, or something to be looked upon highly in another. Before I went into studying crime and violence and all that, I spent my earlier years working as a musician, and also I worked in some nightclubs helping to run their music system and help in talent shows with bands when I was an undergraduate student back in the 1980s. By the way, I have 2 degrees from UCF. I'm a 1984 graduate of the psychology undergrad program, and I'm a 1988 graduate of the Master of Arts program in applied sociology. And just on a side note to mention, I went on and got my PhD at University of Connecticut in sociology. So I just wanted to mention that. And in between all that, I did get a master's degree in counseling and became a licensed mental health counselor in Florida, as well as a national certified counselor and a certified forensic counselor. So I just wanted to mention that. So if I give you some examples later on, you can you can kind of get an idea that maybe that came from my counseling work, where I saw over 1,000 sex crimes that I helped assist with those cases, or something that I observed when I was a musician, and also I grew up in the 60s near the San Francisco area, so that may be also some useful information. I grew up as a young kid during the Zodiac era in the San Francisco San Francisco area. Anyway, deviant behavior outside society's expectations, and of course the boundaries of what's considered deviant vary by social context, by different groups of people. And then we have Sumner's norms, folkways, mores, and laws. Folkways being kind of the expectations that we have, and basically, and then folkways are kind of like manners that when you're eating, a lot of times there's certain ideas of what's the proper way to eat. If you get a piece of chicken fat, you spit it into your napkin, you don't just take it out and say, man, look at this piece of chicken fat, and throw it on the floor, right? That would, be breaking those folkways. And then mores are more serious, some things that we are considered, things that we shouldn't be doing. And then laws, of course, are related to, codes that we have. Laws are socially constructed, but we have formal laws that basically, tell us what the rules and regulations are and what the consequences are for breaking those laws. Then we have the idea of under-criminalization as well as over-criminalization. Under-criminalization would be the idea that criminal law fails to prohibit acts that are considered to be, deviant, and over-criminalization is criminal law penalizes acts that many believe are deviant. So we see those changes as well, occurring. Kind of one example that we might think about are the laws and rules and ideas related to marijuana use, whether it be for recreation or medical purposes. And, some would argue under criminalization, some would argue over criminalization. So you get a lot of debate going on here. There's also some discussion about social change and the emergence of laws. And you get the idea here that a lot of it's related to the community that one is socialized into and grows up with. And also the social control, the formal as well as informal, the complexity of the community, the different views, the strength of the different institutions like family, educational system, religious system, school, medical system, and so on. And you get a little bit of discussion of Emile Durkheim describing crime as normal and functional, that basically crime has several functions. First, it tells us what's considered right or wrong, and then it also reinforces social solidarity. It leads to cohesion between people. And Durkheim states, wrongdoing or crime serves to force societal members to react, condemn, and thus establish the borders of and reconfirm societal values. It is this organized resentment that upholds social solidarity. Then we have three major models that we'll be using, but we'll get into more specific theories as we progress. The consensus model views the law as agreement among members of society of what is considered to be right and wrong. The conflict model views the laws originating in the interests of the dominant group, basically. And the interactionist model views humans as responding to meaning systems and symbols and in ongoing social interaction. The author also discussed characteristics of laws and crime and felonies and misdemeanors, and crime and criminal law in the United States, as well as the evolution of crime and the crime problem, the costs, the media. And these are some situations that we will be addressing later on in the semester. But really, welcome to the course first, and second, I want you to try to make this course apply to your own interests and your own work, and to other courses you have or may be taking, and to also look at how this relates to society, to current events that are going on, and also to see how this will help you in advancing your career. So welcome to the course. Thank you.